And welcome back to Real Ag Radio, brought to you today by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Of course, we're doing the Farmer Rapid Fire, and joining us next is our Pioneer agronomist today. It is John Seliga, and he is from the area between Sarnia to London, is kind of his territory. John, how are we doing?
Very well, Sean.
Okay, so what's happening in your territory? Those combines are we are harvesting a lot of bushels every day.
Yeah, it's been an incredible fall, to be quite honest. It's been wide open. The speed that we've pulled the soybean and corn crop out of the fields is, I think, it surprised everybody. And what's really quite pleasing about that is the fact that we started the season out a little rough, as you may recall.
Yeah.
We had a wet start to the season. We were delayed. We had a lot of late planting, and yeah, like nothing what we would have expected. Even say the middle of the summer, uh, we've got we've got low corn moistures. The dryers are running fast, and grain quality has been very nice. Now, I'm not going to say there aren't some situations that are less than ideal, but the frequency of that is very low.
What's the less than ideal situations? Is that tar spot?
Well, tar spot, yeah, tar spot impacted all of my territory. Like anything, anything southwest of Toronto, we had a very good infection of tar spot, and it impacted the crop to a a fairly strong degree. Thankfully, we've had enough experience with this that a lot of the acres did see a fungicide application, and we're seeing anywhere from 15 to 70 bushel differences between sprayed and unsprayed from tar spot. Obviously it depends on that initial genetic tolerance for the hybrids that are selected by the growers. But it is definitely a disease that growers in my territory have to pay attention to and will have to manage in the coming years.
We've got to be, based on the rate that we are harvesting, this is logistically, this is not typically how harvest operates, which creates also some exposure on some of the lack of, capacity at different constraint points. Are we starting to see some corn piled on the ground?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. We've seen now, I think piles started happening maybe last week at a number of retail outlets. We just, we, there's so much capacity in the countryside with the operations that we have. The retailers just, they can't hold it all anymore. And even with operations building their own storage facilities, it still puts constraints on the system. So we're gonna see piles for a while, but that's not out of the norm necessarily. Just it's pretty early this year. Early November is strange to see piles, and I mean, yesterday and today we're hitting 20 degrees, which is pretty warm.
Yeah. And is there concerns about that? Like, does that create any
No,
issues at all?
I don't think there's any great concerns, but obviously piling corn that's not dry outside when temperatures are north of 20, you'd want to you're hoping that things are going to cool down and not heat up per se.
Yeah.
So
Like,
yeah.
John, you think back, like you mentioned some of the adversity earlier in the season. Like, I can remember talking to growers on the show and people being like, "Oh, corn crop not very good. No, like average at best. Oh, not gonna be one of those good years." And then you look at the Mother Nature really kind of cooperated, and
Yeah,
here we are.
I'm not sure we can really explain some of the yields that we're seeing, to be quite honest, Sean.
Yeah.
The more growers than not are sharing stories of setting new record highs on farms as they track them through the years. That like this year they're hitting new highs, uh, and like I said earlier, the quality is very good to go along with that. So, you know, gibberella ear mold for us in this part of the world is kind of one of our key diseases. Tar spot obviously is maybe going to push that a little bit to the side, but gib ear mold, we're normally dealing with toxins in the grain to some degree, and toxin levels are all very low. You know, again, there's a couple of pockets where we've heard of, you know, 3 to 5 part per million, but in the grand scheme of things, the toxin levels are very, very reasonable. So the growers and the grain marketers are going to be quite happy with the crop.
And this is kind of where we transition to like really start to talk a lot about 25. So it's a very quick transition for many of us. It's sort of abrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Because like right now, you know, our sales agents are talking to customers and starting to think about what are we going to plant next year. Things like tar spot are going to be front and center in those discussions when it comes to corn, and it's a great thing about agriculture is if we didn't quite get it right in 2024, we get to try again in 2025.
Sort of like the Blue Jays. Hey, John, thank you so much for joining us here today on the Farmer Rapid Fire. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sean. Have a great one.